This week on Business Mike, the business of public relations. My guest today is Mary Njoki. She's the founder and CEO of Glasshouse PR, a PR company that helps clients communicate, engage, and build relationships with their stakeholders. In today's show, Mary shares some of the ways in which different businesses can market and brand themselves in order to get more exposure, as well as how she built her company from the ground up to one that has been contacted by Facebook and Google. All this and more next on Business Mike.
You're listening to the Business Mike podcast, amazing interviews with inspiring entrepreneurs. For more amazing interviews, go to www.businessmike.com or download our podcast every Monday from Pod Africa.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Business Mike. My name is Daudi Mugabi and joining me today is Mary. Mary, can you share with the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, so my name is Mary Njoki. I run a company called Glasshouse PR in Kenya. And what we do at Glasshouse, we position brands so that they can be easily accepted and recognized by their target audience. So we develop communication strategies, PR strategies, and we also implement them and help them be recognized by the audience they're trying to reach out to.
Right, and that's a challenge that very many businesses have is they established a service or a product, but then pushing it out there and making sure that their message is properly communicated sometimes becomes a challenge. So from your perspective, what are some of the questions you want your clients to ask before you actually come in and help them? What are the key things someone needs to know and have in place before they can go ahead and push their brand or product online?
We don't only do online. We don't only do the online communication, which is part of the bigger picture. But what we want to understand with our client is who their target audience is. So when they come to us, we develop a PR strategy, understanding what they want to achieve at the end of the period that we're going to run this campaign, and understanding their target audience. So digital communication, which is online, you're calling it online, is part of the bigger picture. We use the online tools to help them achieve their PR objectives depending on their target audience. So in PR, we can use media, that is electronic media. We can use radio. We can use newspapers, to tell their stories. We can use, of course, the online tools, which include the Facebook, the Twitter, the YouTube, but the important thing that we ask our client is who are they trying to target and what are their objectives.
Right, and I would assume depending on the answer to that question in who they want to target and the objective is, sometimes there's a particular platform that you need to use to actually reach them. Not necessarily, because most people are drawn towards the online platforms. As I mentioned earlier, when I said online and you actually address it, that we do other platforms apart from the online. So are these some common themes that you've actually found in not necessarily your clients, but generally in businesses, just sticking to the social media, not necessarily understanding who it is they're trying to reach and how they can get to them?
So your question is, if we've got a client who got to social media and that was not their place because their target audience was not there, yeah?
Yes, and if this is something as well that you've noticed whereby people make that mistake of just sticking to the social media and not going out of their way to actually identify other methods of reaching their client.
I think online generally works. You see, also social media is part of online, because when you talk about online media and digital communication, it can start from your website, it can go all the way to search engine optimization, is your website optimized? It can go all the way to creating content for YouTube, and then it can go to social media. So I've seen clients who have focused on social media, which is okay, because in this day and age, it optimizes you. So if you sell, I'll give an example of our company. If it's Glasshouse PR, and probably we do not have a proper budget to do the full PR campaign where you need to do media interviews, you need to write media articles, which takes a long while and which can be a bit costly. So if you don't have that budget and you come to us, and probably you have a budget for social media, and social media is free, and we call it owned media. This is your own media. This is something that you are able to control from your end. It may take longer to work. Of course, it takes longer. You have to be consistent. You have to be every day updating and making sure content is going through. So it's I've seen clients who've come to us and focused on that. It may not work immediately, but at the long run, it works. But even if it doesn't work for them, it optimizes them. So when you Google Glasshouse PR, it appears on the first page of Google because there were so many social media activities that were behind that particular brand. So, but also I was having a discussion with somebody today, like an engineer, if they come and they want us to do some work for social media, that would not work for them because they are targeting the government. So we need to come up with another way of positioning that brand to the target audience, that is the government. Probably an event where we invite the right stakeholders and they come and hear what this particular person or what this particular brand is going to offer to them. So that's basically it. Mm-hmm.
Yourself as an individual, how did you get into this particular business, or how did you start it? What are the things that maybe inspired or pushed you to actually start this as a business?
Okay, so I'll go ahead and give my story. I'm now, how old? I'm 27 years old. So I was employed for 4 years. I was working in the IT industry. Then I worked in a PR company for a short while. Then in that period, I discovered that when I had ideas that I wanted to give for the companies that I was working with, they were not accepted. They were not easily accepted. So, and I discovered that inside of me, there's much more that I wanted to offer. So, for 4 years, I learned for the 4 years, I learned a lot, of course, because in school, I had studied programming, that is computer programming. So when I went to the job market, they didn't put me in the computer programming department. They said I'm good in marketing, so they put me in the marketing department. So I did not practice what I really wanted to practice. So for 3 years in the two IT companies, I was marketing, and that's where I learned networking, how to market a product. And in that period, I learned I developed love for public relations. This is PR, but I didn't know what it was. I hadn't studied PR. So towards the end of the 3 years and some few months, I decided I need to venture into this PR thing. So I worked in a company for a few months, a PR company for a few months. And in that period, I was also Googling and understanding what PR was. And then I discovered the whole 4 years I was working, I was also volunteering in a non-profit organization, and in this non-profit organization, I would do things that were PR, and I didn't know they were PR. So, moving forward, so I'm in this company, and I have these ideas because my first ideas were digital communication is the next big thing. But every time I would share with these people in this PR company I was working with, they were not accepting my ideas. So I felt like there's something that was in me that was bigger, than going for employment and working from 8 to 5 p.m. That was so boring first, because I would finish my work and I'd get bored. Second, I felt like my ideas were not being accepted, and I felt like there's much more that I could do if I had something that I could control. So I quit employment, and my story is I quit employment, went back to the village. I'm a girl born in the village, and I only had 6,000 Kenya shillings, which is like $60. Yeah, $60. That's the only thing I had, and a laptop. So I went home back in the village, and because I had some IT skills that I had gained, remember I had studied IT before. And I went home and created my own website, simple website. You get a free template online, you get a domain, and then you create your free. I created my free website. Then after that, remember, I had been in the IT industry and I was networking a lot. So I started calling those people I was networking. Remember, I was marketing and networking in these 3 years. So I would call those people and tell them, hey, I have a new company that is doing social media. I started with that digital communication. And I think it's very important for your company to be on social media. I think it's very important for your company to be positioned. So that's how I started. So some would ask me for my experience. Some would give me a chance and they would pay me little money. I had to work for free for, I remember the first year, you have to work for free to prove to people that indeed you can be able to deliver. So I did a lot of pro bono work. I was paid less, by many people. So it was not an interesting thing, the first year. But as we went, as you show people that they value you, that you can offer, they start coming to you. And our second year, I remember we got a call to go and pitch for Google, although we never got that particular account. For us, that was a huge achievement. But later on that year we were able to work with Facebook. This year we've worked with Viber. We've been able to work with internationally known artists where we do publicity for them and position their brands. But for me, my biggest achievement is when we work with an SME, a small company, and we see them move from making this amount to making to growing and making much more. Like there's an SME that we worked with, and within the 2 years we worked with them, they were able to make they grew by 750%. That was huge for us, so they moved from let's say number 1 to number 10, and we had to part. So we feel like Glasshouse PR is a place where when they come in, they are launched, and they grow and they're able to become what they were meant to be. So by when we position them.
Right. Actually, that brings me to my next question, which is some companies prefer to do the sort of work you do in-house because they do not necessarily see justification in hiring somebody else to do it for them full time. So what are some of the, can I call them KPIs, that basically what are some of the things you do for your clients, and what are the measurements you use to prove that actually what you're doing for them is actually of value and is working?
Oh, well, I think first of all, people employ PR people because of the relationships that we have, So the fact that you're coming to me, it's because, I have a good relationship with, is it Nation Media, New NTV? I know Uganda, you have NTV. Maybe, I can take you to State House, or, that's just an example. So I think it's the value that we create. Like for most, like the international companies we worked with, like Facebook, they had an in-house PR, but they needed a PR company in Kenya, because in Kenya we have relationship with this media, we have relationship, we understand the market better. So you are coming to us because there's value that we are creating, and we have the relationships that you need. If it's a company that is launching into Africa and they need to get into East Africa, we have someone we are working with in Uganda or in Tanzania or in Rwanda or Burundi, and so we are able to get, so that person understands the market, understands the audience that you're trying to reach out to. So we are able to understand the audience that you're reaching out to, and we have the relationships that we've had for years. So we, most of the time, for bigger companies who have in-house PR companies, we work now hand in hand with their PR companies. Like, when you're doing the press releases, sometimes they're done in-house, then they come to us, then we localize them, because most of them might not understand the audience. For local companies that have in-house, they'll come to us probably because of relationships. They'll come to us because of what the work they've seen before, and because there's value that you're going to offer. It's of course they'll also come to us because content is huge, and this is something I wanted to mention, that when you come to us, we need to understand the target, but then content is huge. So we are also in the process of investing and making sure that our content development people are good and they are creative. So the creatives that we create, the stories that we write, it's the content is very good. So by the time you're coming to us because there's value in the content that we create, we are going to create content that is going to connect to the audience that you're trying to reach out. And remember, again, we have the relationships. So if you want to be on NTV tomorrow morning, probably your in-house guy may not do that immediately, but because we've been there, done that, we have those relationships. You come to us and we are able to get you to go on here, tomorrow morning. So there's relationships that we've created over time. And because of that, the media houses trust us. And therefore, when, we are able to position our clients to these media houses. Of course, people say everyone can do social media and digital communication, but I differ, So when you come to us, there's a way we are going to do it. There's a way we are going to tell you this is the strategy we are using for your digital communication. We can make you trend all over the country or all over East Africa for one day or for a few hours. And trending right now is a big deal, in Africa, when a topic is trending and your brand is positioned. So there's all that, the value that we create. That's why they come to us.
And actually, I'm really amazed when I hear where you are right now. So I have to ask how long you've been in business, because earlier you mentioned how you started by yourself with your laptop, and now you have all these relationships. So how long has this journey been so far?
The company is now 4 years old. We just turned 4 this month. But what I can say is that these relationships they were built even the time I was employed. So it's very important for us, especially young people. I'm now 27. I think I mentioned that. It's very important for us to learn how to create relationships, not for the benefits you get, but just to create a relationship, because you might need the other person or the other person might need you. So it's good to maintain those relationships and not to burn bridges. Even like the person who first employed me, she's still my friend. I had an event the other day and I invited her to come and see what is happening in my event. So just making sure that that relationships are key, and you keep networking, keep talking to people, but the key is networking and relationships and making sure that you are of value. So when you show up, you have value, that you've already created value and people want to be part of this thing that you are doing. Mm-hmm.
As your company has grown, obviously there are very many, can I say, roles that are very specialized, like the graphics designers, the people who handle the different types of departments. What role do you play as an individual, and also how do you manage the process of making sure that these people who have skills that you do not possess are working at a particular level that the company requires?
Wow, it's been a process. I think if you ask any entrepreneur, that is usually a process. So I am the managing director, and also I'm in charge of business development. So the process of course, getting the right team has been, it's not easy, especially first if you're young, and then secondly if you don't have you're in the process of getting those huge contracts. So the whole thing is a process. So I can say right now we are at a better place, but not where we are supposed to be. So when I go out and get business, I come in and I brief my team on what we are supposed to do. And of course, when, if it's a graphic designer and they develop a poster or a communication material for a client, I have to go through it and look at it. And then, we just send it to the client, they look at it, then probably they say this is what they wanted or this is not what they wanted. So, yeah, that I'm still, I check on what is going on because I have to for now.
Right. And actually, the reason why I asked that is because I've interacted with a few graphics designers, and sometimes someone can do a piece of work and then you think to yourself, this doesn't really look good. And then they can justify it. They can say, no, the color theory, this and that. Therefore, this is the best. And you do not necessarily agree with them, but because they know more than you in a difficult position to challenge them.
You see, it goes back to, remember, when you meet a client, you have to have a brief with the client. So you have to understand who the client is. You have to understand their target audience. You have to understand what they want to achieve. So with all that in mind, of course, when you want to understand who the client is, it means you already know even their colors. You already understand their brand. So you understand their color. You understand everything of who they are. Yeah. So by the time you're giving the designer a brief, you're already communicating all this. So by the time, of course, I know what you mean. Sometimes they do things you're thinking, really? Just go and repeat. You need to repeat, that one. So there's usually that back and forth, especially for content development, videos. When we do, sometimes we develop short videos for clients to put online or to put on YouTube for promoting their product. So sometimes a video can come in, you're thinking, really, this need to be redone, and it's redone, and you share with the client. If the client likes it, you go ahead and implement that. Yeah.
Right. Now, what challenges have you faced as an entrepreneur, particularly because of your age? Sometimes you do have something of value, but because of your age, that in itself makes people wonder whether or not you're capable of managing whatever it is you're pitching. And if you've had such challenges, are there any of them that you've overcome? Or what advice can you give people who are young but want to pursue some of these businesses, which the people they are trying to attract do not necessarily appreciate them just because of their age?
I think being young is an advantage in this day and age. That's what I would say. Of course, the first 2 years, when you go to pitch for business, clients would ask you your experience as a company and what you've done before. But now, since we are 4 years and we've been able to do so much, and it has been out there, it has been successful. So by the time we are going to them, they've already seen what we've done. So the challenge was, at the beginning, trying to convince them that you can deliver. Of course, as we grew, the challenge has been, of course, resources, and sometimes financing. And then, as where we are is trying to get the right people. It's very important for where we are at the place of expanding. When an entrepreneur is starting business, is that the starting strategy, which is different from the expanding and the growth strategy. So the starting and the expanding strategy needed us to be hardworking, to work all night, all day, and that phase came to an end. So we are at another phase of growth and strategy. So in this phase, maybe our challenge is making, getting the right people for every position, making sure we have quality people who are going to deliver, even if the government of whichever country came to us and they need us to do their work, that we can be able to deliver. So that's the challenge right now, making sure we have the right team and the right resources to deliver, to make sure we deliver for the client. So yeah, for finances and for finances, then of course how we overcame that is our business is interesting. It's a service business. It's not a product. So a service, mostly you don't need a lot of capital. You just need to think and time. So at least we were able to overcome that, and by making sure, of course, like in our business, we charge retainers per month. So that worked for us. But now there is the resources and making sure we have the right people to deliver for bigger clients. Yeah.
Right. Now, you mentioned that you have been in business for 4 years. So obviously you've been through many ups and downs. So what advice can you give to people that are just starting a business? Maybe something that you've experienced and learned from.
I think number one, what I've learned is to be sure of who you're targeting. It's very important. Sometimes we we get into business with the mentality of, I can use the telecom company Safaricom in Kenya, that you're meant for everybody. So you go approaching everybody and you waste a lot of time approaching everybody. So number one is to understand who you want to target, who your target market is, and what value you're going to offer them. That's very, very important. Number two, it's very important to know the journey is not for the faint-hearted. Sometimes you wake up and you say, I'm done. I don't want to go on with this company. I'm done. There's too much happening. So it's very important to be patient. It's very important to persevere, some things and focus on the end goal. And number three is to understand that for everything that you start out, it's not necessarily for you. There are many people who are going to come into the thing you're building. There are many people who are going to be part of Glasshouse PR. If I employ 20 people and they have families and probably, each one of them have 5 kids, if I employ 10,000 people, it's not about me. So you look at the bigger picture and understand there are many people who are going to be impacted by this company you're building. So when you're building something, it should not be about you. It should be about creating value, number one, of course, but also understanding that people are going to connect with your business from different countries, from different backgrounds. So it's not about you. So we need first to get over ourselves and know it's not about you. So every time you wake up, it's not about you. And the normal, we are told to be tenacious, persevere. It's not for the faint-hearted.
Right. And final question before we go. If you were cast away on a desert island and you could only take one of each of these, which one would you pick? And the 3 options are, which movie would you take with you? Which book would you take with you? And which song would you take with you?
Oh, wow. Okay. Which movie would they take with me? Okay. It's like you're asking me which is my favorite movie, so I'm trying to think. I have too many. Jerry Maguire.
Okay.
Movie. Book. There's a book I like reading. Maybe. Okay, yeah. The Midas Touch by Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki. Song. There's a song by one of my favorite rappers. It's called Sweet Victory by Triple E.
Right, so that brings us to the end of the interview. Thank you so much, Mary, for sharing this valuable information and knowledge with us. Can you just let the listeners know how they can get in touch with you in case any of them want your services or want to learn more about what you do on social media, website, or email?
Okay, so they can get, you can get to me through Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Njoki116. The company one is at Glass _House VR. Then Facebook, Mary Njoki. Website is www.glasshousepr.co.ke.
Right. Well, thank you once again, Mary, and we wish you the very best with the Glass House.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Business Mike podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to listen to more episodes just like this one, simply go to businessmike.com. I would love to hear from you. So if you've got any questions or feedback, you can reach me on Twitter at Daudi Mugabe, on Facebook at Business Mike, or email. That's daudi@businessmike.com. Don't forget, we have a brand new episode every Monday. And until then, take care.
Cheers to the city, feeling good, we gon' make it to the finish. Sweet victory, you hear me? Ali, if you feel me, yeah, we still reign.